Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. This is amazing. It's a blessing that everybody comes together like this, probably a little over 200 people, for one common goal as far as inspiring our next generation and what we need to do as adults to ensure a positive impact for our children. Well, as he said, my name is Eliot Garza. I'll brief you on who I am real quick. My name is Eliot Garza. They actually named me after a gentleman by the name of Eliot Ness, the Untouchables from back in the 50s. That gentleman actually was a private investigator. If you don't know who he was, he put Al Capone in prison, and my father was a big Untouchables fan. So either that, I'm number 6 in the family, and they ran out of names, so one of the two. But growing up as a child, I really disliked my name a lot because it was such a popular name when E.T. came out that it didn't make a very good surrounding in school for me. And it so happened, good for E.T., that it was a #1 blockbuster back in like 1984 or so. So I got called many names. Not only that year too, I had I'm missing part of my finger, so go with it. So with E.T. and E.T.'s finger and everything else, everything came about. But I had a lot of challenges growing up, not just the simple teasing and what have you as far as growing up as a child. I'm from a very small town, Alice, Texas. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Alice, Texas, but it's outside Corpus Christi. There's sort of a claim to fame, and I'll allude back to Whataburger in a bit, but whether it's Corpus Christi or Alice, or where the first Whataburger was at, actually, Whataburger came from Corpus Christi, but the first built foundation Whataburger was in Alice, Texas, so that's a fact. Coming from a small town, at the time, obviously growing up, you want out of a small town. But now at the age of, I'll be 39 in April, I appreciate it so much. The family values, the faith that was instilled in me, and everything else that came about. Again, as I mentioned prior, I'm the youngest out of 6 children. We're 5 boys and 1 girl. My poor sister is second oldest, so she had to put up with all the boys ganging up on her. So, but it was good fun. As a child growing up, I had challenges. I had learning challenges actually. But before then, it wasn't diagnosed. You're looking at the late 70s, early 80s when I was in elementary. So now that I realized that I was ADHD, I had a speech impediment, I stuttered till the age of 12 because of my hyperactiveness, and I wanted to speak so fast all the time. My stuttering became a huge problem. Within school, it became an even bigger insecurity. Dyslexia is still what I have to concentrate with as an adult as well. But the irony is that I publish and I own a company called NSIDE, which evolves around editorial, photography, bookkeeping, managing, projecting, budgets, and what have you. And how I think it's a blessing in disguise, but I truly compliment my sanctuary at home and what happened to me growing up as a kid. And I'll be brief. I know I'm a certain amount of time, but the importance of what we go through in public schools or out in society, I think it's very important that your sanctuary is always going to be at home. Out in school, it was a daily battle for me growing up as a child. My family, I'm not even sure they knew exactly what I was going through, but they made sure that none of my siblings or my brother or my sister made fun of me, picked on me, and praised me for whatever little accomplishments I did to build that motivation, that character that I had, and that instilled with me today. As a child growing up, man, one of my biggest challenges was my stuttering. I could not speak a word, even more so when I was excited about something. And kids just to this day, they don't have no filter. But back then, it was a daily challenge for me. Not only that, because when it would come to reading classes, I did not want to speak in front of the class. I did not want to read. Because the moment it was my turn, all eyes were on me just to see how it sounded like. Back then, being punished was also being paddled. But school back then was a little bit different for us. We had connected classes in the different wings, and the connected classes had a door going into each room opposed to the front door. So if you got in trouble, you're going to get spanked. And if you get spanked, they would open up the other door to the other classroom, turn your behind around so the other classroom can see. So humility was part of the punishment as well. So after you get out of class, all the other students were making fun of you because you got spanked. So growing up as a child was very difficult for me, and I would go back into my home and I would get frustrated and everything else, and because I never knew exactly what my problem was. I knew I was doing something wrong because maybe I just couldn't stay in my seat. I was interrupting. I was either distracting or whatever I possibly was doing. I continued doing it. But at home, my family would reassure me as far as to calm down, to understand where I'm at, and to build my strength that it's okay, you'll get through this. And at the same time, too, back then, my parents, I really don't think they wanted to recognize there was something different with me. Maybe they didn't want to accept it, you know, because they want their child to be the one that excels, to be that special one. I'm a father of a newborn daughter, 3 months old, and I already feel like that's my beautiful daughter. I think she's smarter than any other baby I ever see. And I'm like, she's prettier than everybody, you know, it's like, I mean, that's me, that's how I feel, you know. So I can see how my parents did not want to accept me being different back then, you know, and how tough it was. So they put me in sports, and I would try out, and sometimes I would make the team, and sometimes I wouldn't. But when I would go back home, it also built character. My father was real strict with me. Well, then you need to practice more. You didn't make the team this year, try out again next year. And sometimes I made it, and sometimes I didn't. But that self-accomplishment that they allowed me to do was so important. Even though it disappointed me and it was sad to me at times, and when Dr. Barrett had spoken earlier, one thing that caught my attention is when she said, it's good for our children to be bored sometimes. Believe me, I come from Alice, Texas. And kicking a can was very entertaining, and you know, it was the best thing. We had to use our imagination and what have you to make things work. There are little things that inspired me, though. Not things that I was sort of like, as a kid, I didn't like my name. Eventually, I found out where my dad got my name from. I said, well, that's pretty cool, you know, private investigator. My dad wears a Fordoro hat to this day. He's 76 years old. He was a life insurance salesman for over 35 years. Being the youngest in the family, he always took me in tow to different areas. Back then, when you sold life insurance, you not only sold policies, but you collected the premium, so he knocked on a lot of doors as well. There was no automatic withdrawals from people's account and what have you. So he had a very tough business. But we had an HEB there, and he would take me to HEB with him just to go buy a gallon of milk. And my father was very interactive. HEB to him was his networking opportunity. So we were there for like 2 hours. And I'm like, Papi, are we going to leave now, Papi? And, you know, he goes, well, go get some grapes. Oh, we're not even paying for these grapes, and I'm going to eat the whole thing. You know, so I would play around at HEB around people all the time. You know, but one of the things I noticed my parents would do as a child to help me overcome my stuttering problem, because I was an overactive, excited kid all the time, was allow me to speak to adults as a kid. And I noticed that, and I was like, oh, I don't want to go return this item, or I don't want to go pay at the cash register. I was only 6, 7 years old and paying, you know, as far as, well, here's my money, give me my change, here's my candy, I want to buy this candy bar. So they allowed me to be responsible for myself, and they felt, well, that maybe I'll overcome my stuttering and my challenges as far as who I am as a person in society. And at the same time, when I would go back home, my father would tell my mom, you know what Eliot did today? You know, he bought, you know, this package of Doritos or what have you on his own. He spoke to the cash register person or the clerk or what have you about how much he needed to do, and he did very well. Just simple things like that motivated me. It made me feel proud because I would see my father talk to people all day long. So when he was happy that I just interacted with an adult, made him happy, you know? And not knowing exactly what he was trying to instill, but now he was instilling a positive reinforcement of my character, of people interaction, building a personality for me as well. But always when we went home, towards the end of the day, he reassured me with my brothers and my mom what I did good today. Because on a daily basis in school, kids are kids. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. You're going to be made fun of, or they're going to be made fun of. They're going to be picked on, and what have you. So at school, my peers were recognizing my negatives, but at home, they reinforced my positives. And again, at this time of my life, I did not know what was going on. I just simply knew that, well, you know, I'm going to get by. It was recommended for me to get into different classes other than regular classes, but my parents refused to do that for me. We didn't have the opportunity of a Winston school like this, which I wish we did. Because now with these type of schools and what have you, they can recognize those type of characteristics and challenges in children and emphasize the strengths and find out where their weaknesses are and to capitalize on that as well. Because back then, there was no true studies, and if there were, they wasn't implemented, especially not in a small town like Alice. I'll tell you what, as far as my stuttering problem, does everybody remember Milt Tillis? Milt Tillis? Okay, great. He used to do Whataburger commercials. Do y'all remember that? Big, better burger, Whataburger, and he would say it real loud, Whataburger. You know, because he would stutter during the commercial, and I was like, Papi, he speaks like me, and he's on TV. As a kid, I remembered that. It blew my mind. And not many people remember Milt Tillis. The thing is, I remember Milt Tillis, he was a country singer, because when he would sing, he didn't stutter. So I was like, well, you know, I want to sing. So I'd ask my parents, can I sing at church? I'm a terrible singer, by the way. I'm not going to sing. But just little things like that motivated me. I would see a big picture in somebody else. Well, this gentleman is on television. He stutters. And if y'all can YouTube Milt Tillis and Whataburger, you'll see some of the commercials. They're up on there. And some of them they're pretty funny, actually. But, you know, there's little things that, as a child, that I remember that motivated me as far as, wow, that's pretty inspirational. This gentleman over here, I never knew anybody else who stuttered as a kid at my age, and then I see someone who's on television doing the same thing. So it was inspiring. Irony is that I'm on television once a month with Great WSSA and also The Living Show, and I co-host with Bridget Smith and Shelley Miles. And it's amazing. These things were not planned as a goal, but it's how my parents' faith and the belief in me, power of prayer as well, instills these type of things and how things fall to fruition. What's amazing is that I'm actually here speaking to 200 people, and I think I'm doing okay, right? I haven't stuttered too much. Okay, thank you. But what humbles me is that as adults, yes, we want to believe our children are the number one. Yes, we want to believe that our children are no different than anybody else or even better than anybody else. Okay? But the truth is that every single one of us was made equality, born with the same tools and what have you. Okay? How we utilize these tools in our mind and our body to excel, because we all have a different plan in life, and how we find out those strengths and where we're going to be at to make it work. I still think my daughter's the smartest girl at 3 months. I was going to run for city council not too long ago. I resigned 6 weeks ago. My daughter's 3 months old. And if I truly believe that home is your sanctuary, I just continue my campaign, putting 15 hours a day to spend more time with my daughter. And I think that's the best thing possible, because she caught my heart so much. She stopped me in my tracks to realize what's important, and that's our future generation. So it means a lot to me that y'all guys are here. It means a lot to me how we could come together and spread the seed of love, interaction, and growth with our children. Politically, I don't want to get too much involved with that, but the thing is that if you on a national basis, we're very involved of what's going on a national basis. we seem to lack what's going on locally. We need to get more involved locally as far as our city issues, what's going on within our child safety and even our own public safety, because that's very important as well. I come from a very strong surrounding background in the family of Alice, Texas, where I had to leave out of the house at 9 a.m. to go play out in the fields and the ranches out there and what have you, come back before dark, and that was safe. Unfortunately, kids can't do that anymore. So we got to get creative of what's going on within our community and what have you. And then even these kids who are going to Winston School or other different specialty schools, to they understand what their strengths are and get motivated and how it works out. I didn't recognize, to be honest with you, that much about myself as a kid until I came to Career Day 2 years ago. And I spoke to some of the children here. And I saw something in them that reminded me of myself, like, wow, these kids are sharp, they're smart, and they're going to take it to the next level. I'm an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur truly is a different breed. An entrepreneur is somebody who understands their strengths, capitalizes on it, and moves forward in that next level in what we call a risk. Most people may not understand entrepreneurs, but most people didn't understand me as a kid neither. So therefore, there's a difference as far as making it happen. So if you feel or you see that element in your child as far as self-independence and that speed of growth, mindset, and what have you, well, you may have an entrepreneur in your hands, and that's not a bad thing. 70% of the United States is employed by small businesses. So think about it. So at that level as well, I'm a big spirit of entrepreneurship. Unfortunately, school wasn't instilled in me after high school. My highest level of education was high school. My mom didn't have a high school degree. My dad only had a high school degree. When I moved to San Antonio, I was 18 years of age, and it was true of a lack of direction. My parents instilled the Bible in me inside and out. I grew up in a Southern Baptist church. I could preach all day long right now. But when I came to San Antonio, I moved up here from a small town not knowing much. I applied in school. I realized that my 2 years of school was going to be remedial classes, non-credit classes. Without any direction or advice or true counsel, I went in and opted out. So at the age of 18, I worked at a car wash for 4 years. If it was somebody, there was a gentleman that would come wash your car all the time. It was a different luxury vehicle, and I finally asked him, I said, what do you do for a living? And he always requested me because I can shampoo carpets in a vehicle better than anybody. And I love getting in these nice luxury cars. And I said, what do you do for a living? He goes, well, I'm in sales. And I said, wow, well, what do you sell? And he goes, well, I'm in the financial institution. We sell investments and what have you. And I said, okay. He said, but you would make a good salesman. You seem very lively. And I was 18 years old. I didn't stutter anymore, actually. But so what I did, the next day I went to the owner of the car wash, and I said, hey, can I start selling car washes? So the people that come in and you start selling car washes like Armor All tires and waxes and everything else, they actually get a commission. And this is before Wash Tub even existed. There was only one car wash like that off of Wurzbach, which is now actually owned by Wash Tub. I started implementing my people interaction of what I saw what my father was doing at HEB, presenting life insurance policies, going to people's houses. First time I'd ever seen my father in myself. Like, wait a minute. I'm becoming my dad. So he didn't teach me like, learn, son. He invited me to his environment, and I picked it up. Does that make sense? Because he cared enough to see if I was interested enough to know, and I never complained. Well, I like being at HEB, honestly. But My father never met a man or a person or a woman he didn't know. I just hosted an event last night. We host an event once a month. We call them NSIDE networking events. We had close to 200 people at attendance. I don't go to HEB to do this stuff. We go to different venues to do it. So I shook over 200 hands last night. Isn't that amazing how everything comes into fruition? How it all comes to play? If it wasn't, honestly, for the power of prayer and that my parents instilled, and also the sanctuary that they provided in my home, because the battles I have to fight every day, the challenges in school that I have to overcome, the teachers who actually saw something in me as well, that implemented positive seeds growing up as a child to where I'm at today. So I guess I'm here speaking on behalf of all the children, on behalf of my daughter, and on behalf of the teachers, the doctors, and what have you. Your environment is very important, and protecting your child at a sense to where they understand their surroundings is important. Because I could have gone a different direction. I could have asked the wrong questions at the age of 18 when I was washing cars. But the seeds that were planted in me have instilled to where I'm at today. I now have publications. I have 4 publications here in San Antonio. I have a fitness magazine called InFit, a real estate magazine called InHome, a medical magazine called Inside MD, and a business magazine called Inside Business. I own 2 fitness facilities as well. One's called Flex Studio, which is a CrossFit facility, and the other one is in Helotes called Elite Physique Studio. They're group workout programs that we run. I have about 18 employees, and I assure you, all of them more experienced and smarter than I am. And I simply lead the direction where they need to go. I found out that if I capitalize on my strengths of shaking hands and networking and building that equity of relationships, and I build a team to strengthen my weaknesses, we can move forward together as a team. And I truly believe that in society we could do the same thing. As a business owner, it works. In society, it should work even easier that way, to where your children, your parents, your family, and everybody gets involved as a team to move forward. I'm real good at starting stuff like this, I feel, but I have a hard time ending. We also have offices in Corpus Christi and Austin, so we're in 3 different markets. Guys, if there's any, I'm not here to impress you guys as far as what businesses I own. I'm here to let you know that your child or your student or your peer or what have you is golden. And I'm sure you all know that, especially what Dr. Baird was saying. But we need to figure out beyond this room how to implement that information to everybody else. It's a blessing that y'all are here today learning and educating yourselves. But we're only 200 strong right now. If you just tell 5 other people what's going on and the importance of our future generation, because I truly am concerned of what's going on out there. And I'm praying for our future generation. I'm praying for my beautiful daughter. It means a lot to me. So getting the word out, I'm not saying to go to HEB and start shaking hands. Getting the word out, positive reinforcement, and having even your students talk about it as well, to implement them as far as, hey, you know what, I am somebody special and things are going to be working out just for me. Inspiring their dreams, even if their dreams are bigger than reality, let them run with it. If they fall down, let them get up and do it again. I failed 5 or 6 different times trying to be an entrepreneur, miserably, and I finally got it right.